Spokesperson Laura Abyss cited concerns about hurricane season in an email that came just before government meteorologists confirmed the first tropical storm of the 2026 Atlantic season had formed in the Gulf. DHS did not say how many detainees were moved or where they're headed, or whether the center was closing permanently. The ACLU and other organizations have been pressing for the tent facility in the Everglades to be shut down. I'm Jennifer King.
This is AP News. AP correspondent Julie Walker reports on sentencing day for the Gilgo Beach serial killer.
Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann gets life in prison without parole for the murder of 8 women. At sentencing Wednesday in a Long Island courtroom, victims' families spoke out against him, calling him a demon and a coward before he addressed the court.
There are no words I can say. I am responsible for what was said in this room today. The words I would say have no meaning.
Judge Tim Mazie asking if he was sorry. In a whisper, Heuermann saying, "Yes, I am."
Are you at least a little bit sorry for that?
Yes, I am.
But the judge and family members not convinced.
Get him out of here.
In April, Heuermann pled guilty in a deal to avoid a trial. Julie Walker, New York.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today. We'll see high into the mid-70s. Northwest winds around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, mostly clear skies develop, a low near 57. By Friday, we'll see sunshine, a high of 77 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, a high of 79. Sunday, chance for showers and storms, high of 74. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 64.
Here's the tale of the daily med fill. Same old pharmacy, same old bill, but those prices kept rising higher still.
Till the savings wrangler rode in, cool as can be. Tap GoodRx, saving massively.
No plan? Don't matter none. Up to 80% off. The deals are done.
Discounts hitting harder than Ma's chili. Dang. That one little app does all the rest.
Save time and money on prescriptions.
Check GoodRx. GoodRx is not insurance.
Snakes, zombies, sharks, heights, speaking in public. The list of fears is endless. But while you're clutching your blanket in the dark, wondering if that sound in the hall was actually a footstep, the real danger is in your hand, when you're behind the wheel. And while you might think a great white shark is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward, don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chu.
Good Thursday morning, progressives, and welcome to the June 18th, 2026 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is the number. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and of course, email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Find me on all the socials under Choose Views and catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Patty Vasquez, Driving It Home. It's The Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago, and our other great shows and interviews that are on our wonderful website. So make your way over, of course, to heartlandsignal.com so you can get that. And, of course, in the evenings, you got to check out the Politics Bar, Matt McNeil Show and The Gailey Show. It's where our programming continues, and we make sure that you guys have kind of that full table of things to check out. And speaking of that, when you make your way over to Heartland Signal, you'll be able to see a few of the articles that we've got posted. One of them, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker contrasts the damage that the Trump administration is inflicting on American citizens' checkbooks and how that's affecting people throughout the country. And he's doing everything he can to keep costs down, and how other Democrats are doing everything to keep costs down, not just here in Illinois, but throughout the country. And so there you go. Some very good stuff that's coming from our governor here in Illinois and his partnerships with other governors throughout the country. There's a great quote that'll come from, that you guys will appreciate, from Pennsylvania State Representative Jordan Harris. Let me be clear, I'm not satisfied with symbolism. I won't be satisfied until we unleash liberation for all people across this Commonwealth. During a Juneteenth celebration, this is what Pennsylvania State Rep Jordan Harris said. He won't celebrate just being in the room. And that's a powerful statement. If you read between the lines, you'll know what he's saying. Speaking of Juneteenth, tomorrow is that. And today is the day that the amazingly wonderful President Obama Library and Center is opening and having celebrations. So there will be tons of talk around that. And we got a little surprise for you guys tomorrow that me, Mike, and Henry are putting together. So you guys, I think, will appreciate that. Next Saturday, the 26th, I will be moderating another event here in Chicago through the Ida B. Wells organization. And it's the Ida B. Wells Festival, which is being held here in Chicago. It's the 5th annual event. Michelle Duster, author, historian, and great-granddaughter of Ida B. Wells, is the key host and organizer of the event. It's been a very, very successful event on talking about history of Ida B. Wells, history of African Americans in the country, and specifically here in Chicago. And I'll be moderating the Voting Rights Act panel with Congresswoman Robin Kelly, Dr. Kevin Fisher, Dr. Kevin Fisher, and Dr. Anthony Douglas will be on the panel. And so looking forward to having anybody, if you want to be a part of that audience, feel free to go to the Ida B. Wells Foundation website, and you can sign up to attend. It's going to run the panel discussion. The Saturday and Sunday is a weekend of all the events, bus tours, all the rest. But the panel discussion that I'll be moderating is going to be from 3:30 until 4:30 on Saturday, the 27th. So that's a week from this coming Saturday. So feel free to sign up. Feel free to show up. We'd love to see you there. Get a chance to meet two great physicians here in Chicago, and to also have a chance to meet with Congresswoman Robin Kelly. And I'll give you a fist pump as well. So there you go. But I'll give you guys another reminder of that next week. But sign up. Love to have you there. On today's show, we have some folks that are going to talk to us about AI, talk to us about budgeting. And I'm looking forward to chatting with all three of our guests in the 6:30 hour. Director of Research with Yale University's Budget Lab, Ryan Nunn. Tom Moore, Senior Fellow for Democracy and Government at the Center for American Progress, will be with us at 7. And then in the 7:30 hour, Nate Weisberg, editor for the Washington Monthly. And we'll be talking a little bit about AI in that segment. So get your pens and pads out, guys, because you want to make sure you're plugged into the conversations. And let's hit you with the quick question of the day. Sounds crazy for me to ask this question, maybe, but I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and this was actually when I was in Detroit on Monday for the Fair Tax Summit. And you talk about, our middle class needing to be re-energized, and of all places to be talking about this in Detroit, a city that is one of our strongest industrial towns for decades. So the question of the day is, what do you think are a couple of things politically that Democrats, Republicans, and independents can agree on? Some of you might, I don't want to taint anybody's answer, but what do you think are a couple of things politically that Democrats, Republicans, and independents can agree on? Let us know by giving us a call. We'll try to squeeze that in. Most definitely send us a text at 773-763-9278. Henry's going to open the lines in a moment, so you can send us a text or you can give us a call. And if we don't get you on, leave that information with Mike, and he will make sure to get it to me. And then, by all means, go to our Facebook page and leave your comments there. Either way, we want to find out what you think. What do you think are a couple of things that Democrats, Republicans, and independents can agree on? Let us know your thoughts, and we'll make sure to, we'll chat about them. So hit us up and tell us what you're thinking. All right, so that's what's happening on today's show. That's our question of the day. And we'll take a little bit of a break. When we come back, a couple of Choose Views news items and some breaking news things that we'll share with you. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. And our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
When you've got real work to do, Metal Supermarkets will help you get it done fast. With a huge variety of metals in stock, we can help no matter what job comes your way. And all it takes is a few clicks. We make buying metal online easy so you can spend less time shopping and more time getting things done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenient stores for metal. Place an order online today at metalsupermarkets.com.
Imagine home. The smell of coffee, the sound of a lawnmower, the sun's warmth on your face. Free to be yourself, surrounded by love that helps you grow. This is a place to call home. That's an American dream we all deserve. But in 50% of U.S. states, you could legally be denied housing if you are LGBTQ+. Get the facts and hear real stories at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
It's 4 words no parent should ever hear. Your child is sick. It's 4 words that change everything. Those 4 words can define a family. It's 4 words that are filled with pain, heartache, and grief. And with those 4 words, the innocence and joy of childhood disappears. But Starlight has taught us 4 other words that make all the difference. The power of play. Healing begins with happiness. That's why Starlight Children's Foundation delivers happiness through gaming, toy deliveries, and more to 3 million kids at more than 700 hospitals across the country to deliver happiness when it matters most. Learn more at starlight.org.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Mike's on, truth's out. This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Henry just threw me a landmine of jokes that made me crack up laughing, snorted, so I'm glad I got that out of the way before it came back on the air. Oh, this is Choose Views if you're just tuning in, guys. Thanks for being with us, and I'm Richard Chu. Let's hit him with a couple of quick Choose Views news items on this June 18th, 2026. The Fed is expected to maintain interest rates at Warsh's debut. Kevin Warsh prepares for his inaugural meeting as chair of the Federal Reserve, and economists expect the central bank to maintain interest rates at a range of 3.5 to 3.75%. Still, market attention is expected to center less on the rate decision and more on Federal Open Market Committee's, their committee's policy statement. State Farm's new agent contract is facing some backlash in the realm of AI. State Farm agents' recent announcements of new contracts for its sales agents has ignited a fierce backlash as the changes could reduce their income by 40% and cut benefits, according to the Wall Street Journal. The move is part of a strategy to adapt to new AI advancements and take on competitor Progressive, which has overtaken State Farm as the largest personal auto insurer. While some agents do see the need for change, many feel betrayed as the proposed cuts venting by venting their anger and frustration across various social media channels. Meta's CTO admits there's a morale issue in terms of layoffs. The chief technology officer, Andrew Bosworth, revealed that employee morale is near an all-time low, exacerbated by recent layoffs and what else? New internal AI initiatives. Cambridge Analytica. This is beyond the Cambridge Analytica data scandal. Bosworth said morale is probably one of the worst it has ever been. Facebook parent recently laid off, meaning Meta, 10% of its workforce, and it's upping its AI spends or investments. Apple is planning to launch a new camera-equipped iPods. I read this and I thought this is really interesting. They want to introduce new camera-equipped iPods in late 2027, marking the company's entry into the AI-powered wearables sector, according to an anonymously sourced person at Bloomberg. The AirPod cameras are not chiefly designed to take photos, but rather to supply visual information about a user's surroundings and virtual assistant Siri, which can then answer questions about nearby places and objects. The launch is tentatively scheduled to coincide with a slew of new tech later next year. And the USA World Cup opener smashes the U.S. soccer ratings record. America may not be known for its soccer country, but a record number of U.S. viewers tuned in to watch the men's national team dismantle Paraguay. The USMNT romped to a 4-1 victory and drew a crowd combined 27.5 million viewers to Fox and Telemundo, breaking the previous record of roughly 26.7 million for the 2014 and 2022 finals. The match beat Game 7 of the Classic World Series between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays and equaled Netflix Christmas Day NFL audience for the Lions and Vikings. So that should tell you something about where soccer is, or at least viewership is headed here in the United States. So there you go. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will talk to Barbara McQuaid, legal analyst and professor, as you all know, the author of the book The Fix. David Hochberg, Vice President of Lending for Team Hochberg. Heartland Signal's Rich Everwine with 3 stories you might have missed from our digital newsroom. That's Live, Local, and Progressive weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT. And, of course, heartlandsignal.com and tune in. And then tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by guest host Chris Jones, and their guests will include Heartland Signal Executive Director Rodney Gibbs, Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, and comedian Deanna Ortiz. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website. Tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. Tomorrow on Choose Views, I'll be talking to Karen Byrne of True Blue Politics Podcast and Sean Smith Pierce and Jody Hamilton of the Politics Bar, now airing weeknights 7 to 9 p.m. here on WCPT. And then the 7 o'clock hour Central our time, our America at 2:50 conversation will explore Juneteenth, the fight for racial equality and expansion and contraction of the vote in the United States. And at the end of the hour, I'll be joined by Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis. So check out all 3 of our shows. As always glad that you guys are with us, and we'll give you the appropriate reminders of where to catch us. There you go. A couple of Choose Views news items and a couple of updates of our shows. Here are some things that are, well, I guess you could call them kind of breaking news, or at least updates to currently in motion news items. If you read the full text, the 14-point document commits, what am I talking about? Sorry. The full text of the Iran Memorandum of Understanding. A memorandum of understanding, Mike and Henry. In other words, y'all ain't got to do this, Iran. We just want to get the heat off of us so that we can say that we got something done. I was talking actually to my wife about this. Part of what I believe is happening with this, the Iran deal, and this being overseas in G7 and Trump just making a big deal around what's not really happening with the Iran deal. I think a lot of it is to be able to time out that we got something done. We got it done. We made it happen. And to, in my mind, call me crazy, to try to throw some spoil or misdirect attention from two things. What two things? Juneteenth and the opening of the Obama Librarian Center. They want to have a big news story to break today and or tomorrow. Watch my words. Call me crazy, but President Obama and Mrs. Obama are they have got a 12-unit, fully occupied property inside of Donald Trump's head. In fact, they got a 100-story skyscraper inside of Donald Trump's head, and most of the cabinet and many of the GOP, and certainly MAGA. It is a 100-story, fully occupied property inside of his head. So I think that this is why they're pushing so hard this particular week to get this done, so they can have the ability to try to deflect the story, the news line, whatever, from Juneteenth and the opening of the Obama Library. I could be wrong, but if you take the time to look at the 14-point document, the provisions, the document spanning 14 provisions, outlines sweeping commitments that would fundamentally reshape decades of U.S. policy toward Iran. However, it's a pledge to lift all sanctions against Iran, including UN Security Council resolutions, the IAEA Board of Governors resolutions, and a unilateral U.S. primary and secondary sanctions, all of them. The release of frozen Iranian assets, a U.S.-led commitment to develop a $300 billion reconstruction and economic development plan for Iran, and a time deal for U.S. forces to withdraw from the proximity of Iran following the final deal. Pollywalkie, malarkey. There's no substance to this thing. I mean, it's. I'm going to pull the other line items, but that compare. This will be something I'll share with you guys tomorrow. That'll share the Obama JPCOA deal versus this, and somebody lied on television. Someone lied during a press conference in terms of where the money is, how the money is going to be allocated. This $300 billion. Because between JD, Marco, and Donnie, they can't get their story straight about the $300 billion. Is it part of our budget? And I think when we have Ryan on, he might help us wade through this a little bit, and he'll be on with us in a moment. Is it part of the budget? Is it part of some, misdirection of money scheme that he's going to put together? Is it truly going to be with partners in the Middle East? I'm really waiting to see what's truth and what's fiction when it comes to this so-called deal, which is just a memorandum to create something that he can say, I got a victory. He's plugging hard to distract from the Obama Librarian Center being opened and making himself the news story. I believe that's part of their calculation. Why this week of all weeks when they could have done this 2 weeks ago, and they know they could have done it 2 weeks ago, and they could have done it a month ago, even if not even taking into the conversation, not starting it in the first doggone place. But to that end, I'm waiting to see more of the details. So I'm going to bring this tomorrow. I'll have a kind of a bullet point, a line item of the previous deal, the JPCOA, and this current memorandum of understanding. It's kind of like I'm really going to water this down a lot. Two things. You guys remember during the campaign and the debate that Donald Trump had with Vice President Harris, and he said that we've got plans for or ideas of plans. However concepts of plans. Thank you, Henry. Okay, so this is kind of in the same vein, Mike. We got a memorandum of understanding. Okay, like a pre-deal to a deal that may not ever happen. It gives them the opportunity to back out. Okay. It's kind of like going out with your boys or your girls, or a combo of the boys and girls going out. And the person says that organizes everything. Hey, listen, I got the whole bill. I'm going to cover everything. Don't worry. Just show up. I'm going to pay for everything. Mike's got a smirk on his face. And everybody shows up, right? At, you're going to, a steakhouse or a place it's going to be pretty pricey. Order what you want. Right? Mike's nodding his head. He knows where I'm going. And you're bragging like you got the bill. And then when the bill comes, the bill is stupid high. And you're like, you're looking around going, hey, man, can you help us? That's what this memorandum of understanding is kind of like in my mind. I mean, you guys speak to this. I mean, the person said, I got everything. And then when it gets down to cutting the nut, nope. That's what this is about. So I always give you guys the room to call me crazy. But, there's some classic Obama projection in this. There's some who lied or didn't get their stories correct in this. And there's some don't fall for the okie doke, or as Mike likes to say, the banana in the tailpipe from the legendary classic Beverly Hills Cop 1, the first one. All right, guys, we're going to take a little bit of a break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, as well as our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. When we come back, we'll be talking to someone that's really serious and knows what the hell is going on. Ryan Nunn, the director of research with Yale University's Budget Lab, will be with us. We'll be right back.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. Did you know there are only 49 states in America that require you to have car insurance? At Chicago's Progressive Talk, we're in Illinois, and Illinois is one of the 49 states that require you to have car insurance. Let's look at some car insurance companies that support the Democratic Party. American Family Insurance. American Family Insurance was once very conservative, but since 2019, they have moved to the left, donating $214,000 to Democrats. In 2024, AAA was also once very conservative, but in 2014, they shifted to the left, donating $235,000 to Democrats in 2024. 83% of their donations went to Democrats. Liberty Mutual. Now, Liberty Mutual leans to the left, and yes, they did donate $1.6 million to Democrats in 2024. That was only 64% of their donations. Progressive Insurance. Progressive does not give to politics, but some of their senior leaders do, and their senior leaders lean left. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
When you get a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, things get real.
And nobody understands that better than the Parkinson's Foundation. All across the country, we provide resources and support in the fight against Parkinson's, a neurological disease that affects movement.
The Parkinson's Foundation is dedicated to improving care and advancing research towards a cure.
And when you call our helpline, you'll speak to a real person who can help you find the right information. Because while living with Parkinson's can be challenging, there are things you can do to improve your quality of life. So, whether you're newly diagnosed, have been living with Parkinson's for years, or caring for a loved one,
when Parkinson's gets real, find real answers at the Parkinson's Foundation.
Go to parkinson.org or call our helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO, 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT Willow Springs, is powered by ComEd. Visit ComEd.com/facility assessment to learn more about energy savings.
From the the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today. We'll see high into the mid-70s. Northwest winds around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, mostly clear skies develop, a low near 57. By Friday, we'll see sunshine, a high of 77 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, a high of 79. Sunday, chance for showers and storms, high of 74. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 64.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
It's Choose Views, where we read more than just the headline. Now here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chew, and of course this is Choose Views on WCPT and a few other places, WARR down in North Carolina and AM 950 up in Minnesota. Before we went to the break, I teased myself about going from joking and being a little bit silly and rambunctious with the conversation around what's happening with this Iran deal to someone that's always got a good smile on his face, but can take this stuff seriously because he knows what he's talking about. And I got to start calling him professor. I didn't realize that Ryan has a PhD in public policy from the University of Michigan. So welcome to the show, Doc. Ryan Nunn. Welcome to Choose Views, Director of Research with the Yale University's Budget Lab. Good to have you on the show again.
Thank you. Really delighted to be here, Richard.
Well, you heard me guffawing a little bit about the contents of this memorandum of understanding that has been, thrown in our laps to look at and try to assess and determine what's real and what's fiction. But when we talked before, one of the things that you were really concerned about and some key things that you were touching on is how oil prices and GDP and the shocks, how oil prices had created such a huge shock. And this is just a couple weeks after the war started. So walk us through sort of the ebb and flow of oil prices over the last 90 days and then what you see as an analyst when it comes to how this really is impacting everyday folks and their budgets. I mean, I'll share this with you. I, on average, spend about $58 to $62 to fill up the tank of my car. And it's not a big car. It's not a, it's a fairly efficient SUV, not a big one. It's a medium-sized one. And that's what the number was. I'm now between $97 and $102 to fill up the tank. So that's a huge increase. But talk about how you've observed what the war in Iran has done in terms of shocking oil prices.
Yeah, absolutely. So just before this conflict started, the price of a barrel of oil in the U.S. was about $65. Shortly after that conflict, of course, we saw a big spike in that price, and it really has fluctuated around a $90 to $110 range over that roughly 3.5-month period since then. Of course, with the announcement of this deal, oil prices have come down to some degree, but we have had this sustained period of higher oil prices. And our analysis really was, as you said, all about trying to understand what the economic impacts of that would be. And I think our analysis has been borne out pretty well in that energy prices did go up quite a bit. The last inflation reads that we have from the Bureau of Labor Statistics indicate substantially higher inflation driven by those higher energy prices. Now, the overall macroeconomic impact has not been so large as to derail the U.S. economy overall, but undeniably, these are big burdens for consumers.
So help us understand as best you can, and I know that this is nuanced, but also very specific. How has the increase in oil price affected inflation? What would be a couple of nuggets that most of us can grab for quick understanding there?
The place I would start is the Fed's target for inflation being 2%. Is something they've been trying to get to now for a while, and we were heading down towards that level before the conflict. The most recent read on the so-called CPI, the Consumer Price Index, was 4.2% inflation over the last year. And that really was driven by these categories that you would expect to move in the wake of the Iran conflict. So, a whole range of energy prices had gone up quite a bit.
Got it. Okay. So I did the math loosely earlier about gas for me, but it's sort of, I mapped it out to be an additional about $52 to $53 per month of an increase overall for me to fill up my tank 1.5 times roughly per month. So if we look at that as it relates to sort of a national economic model for all Americans or all car driving Americans, and then link that back to not inflation, but in terms of people's budget, what are you seeing? What are you hearing as it relates to that? $52.50, let's call it $52 a month of an increase for a medium-sized vehicle to fill up, and then expand that to the U.S. overall economy of money that went to gas versus money that went to whatever else. How are you guys analyzing that?
So one thing I would emphasize coming out of our own analysis of this is that people do vary quite a bit in how much they spend on gas. So when we looked, we have a recent analysis looking at what would happen if you were to suspend the federal gas tax temporarily. And what we needed to do in understanding that impact is really to look at that range of spending. And you find that there are folks in every income group who spend a little bit on gas, folks who spend a lot. When you average across that, the most recent analysis I've seen from some other economists is that the average household would face something like an extra $1,000 in gas costs. Now, that's a projection. That depends on where gas prices go after this deal. It could be lower or higher. But what we see, though, is that there's quite a range in the burden. There are people who are heavy gas users, maybe living in rural areas and needing to travel great distances for work, and they are paying more than others.
Are you seeing any information, any data of companies that, and this is not dating me, but it's kind of going back to a lot of things that I remember in my younger years and through my career. But are you seeing companies that have fleets of vehicles, for example, or have vehicles where, not vehicles, but they have employees where part of their compensation or part of their benefits package is a reimbursement for gas or reimbursement for their expenses, and one of them being their car expense or their gas expense. Have you guys pulled any data that's showing where businesses have changed what they allocate toward that expense, or are there any national numbers being reported showing an adjustment there?
I haven't seen that. Now, it's an interesting question, and you would expect that those costs would be rising just along with energy costs overall, but haven't seen that specifically.
And the reason that I think about that question is I think about it in terms of how companies allocate their resources, and number one being their monies that they can pay for benefits and other forms of compensation. But I think about it as well as what you said about the federal gas tax holiday, because that I would think would immediately impact companies where a big expense for them is their reimbursement to employees when it comes to their gas expense or their travel expense and that kind of thing. So just curious to see if there was any data out there that may have touched in that space. But do you see companies, or maybe a different way of asking this question, what do you see companies? We talk about individuals, and we all are individuals in this conversation, but how are businesses, small, medium, and large, saying to you, or data that you guys may have about how this is impacting their business and their function?
Something we worried about, especially earlier in this conflict, was the potential for the kind of supply chain snarls that we all became very familiar with back during the pandemic and the recovery from that. Just given that so much of the world economy is in some way connected to the energy that and the other products that we talked about last time,
right?
That come through the strait. I think that those concerns aren't gone, because as we see the recovery from this and normalization, there are a whole bunch of frictions that folks are going to have to deal with. I mean, there's just pretty prosaic stuff like just needing to get all the crews back organized to move the fleets of oil tankers, the need to actually get the oil to the refineries and to the ultimate consumers. All of that takes time, and I think we will see how quickly businesses will be able to see some relief in terms of the lower energy prices, in addition, of course, to consumers at the pump.
Yeah, because what made me think about that, and thank you for kind of picking up on it, is like the other petroleum-based products that are manufactured and how those industries, those sectors are impacted. The thing that comes to mind immediately for me, and you and I talked about this before, are tires and other products that are petroleum-based or loosely petroleum-based, and how they have had to make adjustments. And then this is the other part of the question. No one seems to really have a sunset date, if you will, on how soon the relief will actually be felt. It's one thing for the markets to have some adjustments and the prices of certain things to be adjusted, but when will we actually see this hit the regular economy? What are you studying there, or what are you researching in that category? Because it's hard to, I'll let you answer the question, but because I got so many thoughts about it. But go ahead. Sorry, Ryan.
No, it is a really interesting, a tough question. I think it depends on a whole host of considerations. One I didn't mention was that the reserves that we've been running down, that governments keep of oil, those have been depleted to an extent. I think that if folks expect higher risk going forward, if they worry that this type of event might occur again, they're going to want to get those reserves to an even higher level than they were back in February. And so all of that kind of concern seems likely to prolong this experience, right? As folks are trying not just to get back to where we were, but to try to bolster their resilience for any future shocks. Because I think we now realize there's always some risk that this kind of event could occur again.
Yeah, because that's why, and then I did it in a teasing way, but there's a realistic component to a memorandum of understanding. If this deal, whatever it is, doesn't happen, or if this memorandum gets shredded, then we haven't really made any progress. We had a bump in the market, but we haven't really made any progress. And then how do we navigate through that? No pun intended, talking about the Straits. They get closed again, and Iran says no, and this was all garbage, and we're back to where we were 2 weeks ago. That then has another rebound effect, a shock effect on not just the oil markets, but our financial markets. But there's no way to predict if that's going to happen or not, because we don't know how strong this memorandum really is, right?
And I certainly would leave that to others, just staying in my economist lane here. But I do think in terms of the balance of risks, and I look to others to tell me, how firm this is and what that risk is going forward.
Yeah. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to shift the conversation a little bit to talk about AI and some of the things that you guys are researching and studying when it comes to employment and entry-level jobs and all the rest. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu, and you're listening to Chu's Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, 103.5 FM and 1520 AM in Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. And I'm talking with, yes, Professor Ryan Nunn, Director of Research for the Budget Lab. We'll be right back.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
It's been a real journey since 2014 when I first had my injury. I realized that my home was just not working for me, and that it was time to ask for help. Homes for Our Troops is really giving me my life back. The shower allows me to go in and turn around with my chair, pull down storage racks, automated door systems, hours of my morning given back to me. Adaptive sports are a huge part of my life, a huge part of my healing journey as well. Homes for Our Troops helped with making sure that I had a home gym so that I can continue to train. This past year, I was able to host Thanksgiving in my home. And it was the first time I was able to have my whole family in one place, and I was able to contribute to the meal. There are a lot more veterans in need, and Homes for Our Troops is going to be there to help them too.
Homes for Our Troops builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans and enables them to rebuild their lives. Join our mission at hfotusa.org.
Many of our U.S. veterans and service members face challenges, mental health struggles, housing obstacles, food insecurity, and social isolation, to name just a few. I'm Bob Woodruff. My family and I started the Bob Woodruff Foundation in 2006 after I sustained a life-threatening injury while reporting from Iraq. Our service members had my back that day, and we need to have theirs now more than ever. At our foundation, we invest in solutions, so learn more about our work at bobwoodrufffoundation.org/success.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Don't hit that snooze button. It's time for Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. We are talking with Ryan Nunn, who is the budget director of research. The director of research for Yale University's Budget Lab. Before we went to the break, I was saying that AI is certainly an area where you guys are going to have been spending and will in the future be spending a lot of time in research and analysis. There's so much to kind of put our arms around and not even really understand, but at least put on the table as talking points. But right now, I mean, the labor market I'll say reeling in many ways. I read a report earlier, and this is labor market, but it's also business, and it's that State Farm, for example, their agents are struggling with their contracts because of how AI is affecting how they're going to be compensated because of how the organizations and most insurance companies like this that are property and casualty, as you well know, they function in a commission-driven compensation model. But even that organization or organizations like that are concerned, like, how are we going to be really impacted by this? Because those agents and brokers are compensated based on productivity, but AI seems to be stepping and leaning into that space as well. So broad question, but when you're analyzing the labor markets, what are some of the things that you're looking at that are very telling, and then that are giving you some sort of future to project into?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, there's a lot to get your hands around here. What we're doing is usually looking at surveys of workers, and we're looking at nationally representative government data that can speak to the overall labor market. So it won't always tell us about the really narrow impacts on specific groups, and I certainly wouldn't want to say that those effects don't exist. What we find, though, when we look at things like employment and earnings of workers who are especially exposed to AI or not exposed to AI, is we're not seeing a whole lot at the overall labor market level. You know, we look in a few different ways. One other thing you might expect to see from AI in the labor market is a shift in the kind of work that people do. You know, a shift in the mix of occupations out there. We're not seeing that yet. And I think that's somewhat surprising, just given how undeniably powerful some of these models are, and it's something that we're continuing to track because, you know, we very well may see these kinds of effects in the months and years to come.
So when you talk about the new job direction or new disciplines, one of the things that comes to mind for me is I go back to 1980 to 87, 88, really maybe even 78 to 88, that 10-year window, where one of the things that I heard so much was the impact that computers would have on employment, on working and working conditions and all the rest. And I know that you could pull up a tremendous amount of data that was researched back then. But one of the things that was really a part of the conversation, part of the sale of this technology and driving us down this path, was that it was going to make life easier for so many people. And it was going to make work less cumbersome, and a variety of other words that were used. And in fact, many people would say that that didn't really happen, that two things were clear. One, it took work away. It took jobs away. Jobs were redirected. And two, the people that were still working were working actually harder because there was less people power to actually facilitate the work that needed to be done. So that's the first part of the question I want to ask you. Are you seeing that as a possibility when it comes to AI models as we go forward? Or a version of that?
That points to a really interesting question that I think is somewhat harder to answer with the data that we're looking at. So, how people experience their work, whether AI is making that less or more engaging, is certainly important, something somewhat hard for us to see. One thing that comes out of that historical experience you just noted is that the researchers at the time were asking, where is the effect of all of this computerization and automation? They were looking at the productivity statistics and they weren't seeing it there. And ultimately, it took quite a while for the effect of these technological changes in the past to actually have a footprint in the kind of data we look at. So I just want to be really aware of that as I tell you what we're finding, some of these things in the past just took quite a bit of time.
Yeah. So the other side of that, though, is I said then, and this is, I wonder what the overlay is today, as you talked about the shift in terms of models, in terms of employment, is training and how people are going to be trained, if people are going to be trained, if companies are going to provide training to employees in this space. I had someone that was a guest on the show last week say, use technology to learn about technology. And it's a great phrase, and I think it's an applicable one in this space. But what do you think will be, or what are you seeing or hearing may be what organizations are doing or going to do as part of their planning, as part of their resource of budgeting, or budgeting of their resources, I should say, to affect training and helping their employees be ready for this technology that's not coming, it's already here?
I do think that's a serious concern, and it's something that I know a lot of researchers are looking at. So, we've actually had two shocks, not just AI, but the rise of remote work that have really mattered for this as well. So folks are especially concerned about early career graduates who are entering the labor force for the first time. They're the ones who are especially in need of the kind of training you're talking about as they start their careers. And both AI and remote work, in theory, could pose challenges for this, because with AI, there's some concern that firms will see these large language models as substitutes for the early career workers. Now, to be clear, we don't know definitively that that's occurring, but certainly something to look hard at. And it's something that we worry about with remote work as well, where folks aren't kind of getting the same sorts of mentoring and training that they may have in earlier times. So I think that age aspect and the training dimension is something that's important for us to keep looking at.
So people who are younger coming into their careers, and I know this is a big concern, you just stated it, and there's so many other points of observation on this. And I guess my question around training really comes back to what will be an opportunity, I guess you could say, for businesses to embrace this while they hopefully can offset the economic or career shock that a lot of people are going to experience, and some are already saying that they're experiencing because of AI. So that was kind of the reason why I was asking that question, is how companies can use this as an opportunity to embrace the technology and train and continue to build their workforce rather than just having it be a situation where mass unemployment it becomes where we are. Talk a little bit about what's being deemed or termed as occupational churn in the space of AI. What are your thoughts there? What are you guys sort of sitting around the research table and talking about when it comes to occupational churn?
So this is something that we think is important to watch. So workers at any given moment are employed in a variety of occupations. We can count up the shares of workers who are in occupation A versus occupation B. And that changes all the time. Workers are moving across those different types of jobs. And what you might think is that if you have this really disruptive kind of shock, like AI, you might expect that that's going to shift the mix of workers across those types of jobs. And so we're looking for that. We're using this nationally represented data to see each month as the new data come in, if we're starting to see any extra churn across the occupations. We're looking within industries like information, manufacturing, industries that you might especially care about just given where you think AI is likely to have effects. And again, so far, we're just not seeing any unusual amount of churn that one might worry is being caused by AI.
What would be I guess the signpost as we wrap up that would tell you that there is an unusual amount of churn? Because what are the guardrails, or maybe not even that, but what are the signposts that you could go, yeah, that's our indicator. That's what I was looking for.
Well, actually, we do something that I think comes back to a little earlier in our conversation. We look at these historical episodes back when personal computers were being introduced, widely adopted, other moments in time when there were technological shifts, and we look at how quickly workers are moving across occupations by contrast to those historical episodes. And it's those comparisons where we think, hey, might we be seeing even higher churn than back at those times? And that's the kind of thing we might look to see. But I guess stepping back, what I would say is we're trying to find a lot of different ways of looking for effects of AI. Each of them have their own weaknesses and strengths. And the hope is that by kind of taking a variety of approaches, that we'll see any effects when they happen.
Got it. Professor Ryan Nunn, Director of Research with Yale University's Budget Lab. Check their organization out if you want to get plugged in and learn a little bit more in these spaces. Ryan, thanks for hanging out with us this morning. We appreciate you taking a little bit of time to better inform us.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Have a great rest of the day. Let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and when we come back, we'll be talking some more economics with Tom Moore, Senior Fellow for Democracy and Government at the Center for American Progress. We'll be right back.
At Blaine's Farm and Fleet, we know you do things your way. So why shop the same retail giants as everyone else when you can easily find the products you need and trust at unbeatable prices? Like $200 off a Hobart Handler 210 MVP MIG welder, now $999.99. Save $110 on a 192-piece DeWalt Mechanics tool set. And all Steelworks welding stock 10% off. Find the value you need to do things your way. Blaine's Farm and Fleet. Be an original.
There's danger out there. It lurks on highways and quiet neighborhood streets. It's more likely to kill you than a shark and more terrifying than the biggest snake. Distracted driving claims lives every day. Every notification, swipe, social post, video, or selfie while driving risks your life. So while you might think public speaking or the zombie apocalypse is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
For the ones who get it done, Grainger offers the professional-grade products you need, delivered when and where you need them. Call and click Grainger.com or just stop by.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today. We'll see high into the mid-70s. Northwest winds around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, mostly clear skies develop, a low near 57. By Friday, we'll see sunshine, a high of 77 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, a high of 79. Sunday, chance for showers and storms, high of 74. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 64.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is criticizing NATO allies for not taking more responsibility for their own security. AP correspondent Karen Shamus has more.
The Pentagon chief announced a 6-month Pentagon review of American forces in Europe to ensure NATO moves towards Europe leading its own defense. Speaking in Brussels on Thursday, Hegseth called it shameful that European allies denied U.S. forces access to bases for attacks on Iran. He emphasized the need for a new upgraded NATO, which he called NATO 3.0.
NATO 3.0 is post-Cold War recognition that it needs to go back to a real hardline military alliance.
The U.S. plans to invest $1.5 trillion in defense by 2027, focusing on protecting American interests and supporting NATO. I'm Karen Shamas.
Mr. President, please, just one question for French TV and the RM deal. Just one question.
You signed the deal?
You signed the
MOU? It's signed, yeah. We signed it. It's signed.
President Trump has signed a deal with Iran to end the war. He spoke to reporters as he left France, where he was attending the G7 summit. According to both countries, the agreement calls for Iran to dilute its stockpile of highly enriched uranium. It also waives U.S.-backed sanctions on Iran and lets Iran sell its oil freely in a major concession from Washington. In Russia, Ukraine has hit a major Moscow oil refinery for the second time in a week, causing flight disruptions at the city's airports. The attack follows Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's coordination call with the U.S. and France, securing further support from the G7 summit. More stories at apnews.com. This is AP News. Former President Barack Obama is celebrating the opening of his presidential museum today.
Helping him celebrate the opening are some big names: Bruce Springsteen, Stevie Wonder, John Legend, and Jennifer Hudson. Former Presidents George W. Bush and Bill Clinton will also be there. Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama are expected to give remarks. It's an invitation-only celebration that will be live-streamed, and it's the start of a weekend of events centered around the Obama Presidential Center, a nearly 20-acre campus on Chicago's South Side. The center opens to the public on June 19th, Juneteenth, but admission tickets are sold out through the end of October. I'm Donna Warder.
Today's ticker tape parade for the new NBA champions will be a first for the New York Knicks. When the team won the title before in 1970 and then in 1973, they weren't honored with New York's signature procession. I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. Cancer screening tests can help keep the person you love around longer by detecting changes before cancer develops, or catch it early when it may be easier to treat. And many tests are available for free or covered by insurance. It's time to sound like a broken record. Tell all your friends and family, I love you. Get screened. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn.
I always had to be so good, no one could ignore me. Carve my path with data and drive. But some people only see who I am on paper. The paper ceiling, the limitations from degree screens to stereotypes that are holding back over 70 million stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes, rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time for skills to speak for themselves. Find resources for breaking through barriers at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Choose Views is where you are. 773-763-9278 is the number. Give us a holler. We will try to squeeze you in at some point. I'll do my best, I promise. But for now, we've got to keep the very smart, well-educated theme of our show running forward. It was great to have Ryan on a moment ago, but now we're talking with Senior Fellow for Democracy and Government at the Center for American Progress. Tom Moore is with us. And Tom, I want to say hi and welcome. It's our first time having a time to chat, but thank you so much for taking some time to be with us this morning. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Richard. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, diving right in, as I say, to the deep end of the pool, one of the things that is troubling so many people right now, obviously this most recent sort of, as I talked about, the memorandum of understanding that's just come forward with this Iran deal. It's got a lot of people basically saying, what does it really mean? What is substantively going to be what this is all about? And I'm going to delve into that a little bit more tomorrow. But give us a quick, sort of 30-second drill of what your thoughts are about it, to the extent that you've read it at all, or any of the parts of it of late.
Well, that's not my area of expertise, but it seems like it's kind of a mess. It seems like we're not getting very much out of it that we didn't have before. That there are things in there that Obama had negotiated better, and it's very difficult to see this as anything other than a substantial loss for the United States.
Yeah, constitutional power and constitutional awareness is certainly something that's important. And you wrote this fantastic article, States, Secret Weapon, Reclaiming the Authority to Limit Corporate Power. Wow. First of all, what a title, but what an amazing article. And I tell everybody, get yourself over and read Tom's article. Healing American Politics is as simple as dusting off a resource hiding in plain sight in our constitutional toolbox. Okay, you got the baton, Tom. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so everybody kind of sees corporations as these things that just exist and they can do anything they want anywhere, and they have these powers, and they might be people and all these things. And Citizens United said they can spend all the money independently they want in our politics and all this. But there's a truth that's sitting in every state's laws, which is every state creates their corporations and sets the powers of the corporations that operate in their states from other places. And every state has something in its laws that says, hey, we can change up your powers at any moment for any reason, or get rid of you altogether. And for 200 years, the Supreme Court has said, like, yeah, the states have the authority to do that. You created them. You can do what you want with them, basically. But no one's done anything like that in 100 years. These tools have been sitting in states' toolboxes since the 1800s. Everybody gave all the powers away to all the corporations to do anything all the time about 100 years ago. And then it's just kind of sat that way. And, what they gave away was broad. I mean, the Virginia law that created Citizens United, the group, said they have all the powers of a human being, which is kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. And when the Supreme Court saw that, they assumed, like, well, people have the power to spend in politics, so corporations must have the power to spend in politics. And so let's talk about their right to spend in politics. But what they never said, and they never addressed it, and they just kind of assumed that it would never change, is do states have to give them the power to spend in politics? Mm-hmm. And no Supreme Court case has ever said that any state has to give any power to any corporation. So the move is, and it's using tools that have been sitting there for 100 years or longer, is just rewrite your corporation law to say, we don't give this power to our corporations anymore. You are redefined as entities that just can't do it. And that's all it takes.
It's interesting. I look at this from two sides. One of them is, I guess I'll say the before and the after. And what do I mean by that? Going back to what you said about the rewriting. So if we were to look at corporations that are currently incorporated, businesses that are currently incorporated in a given state, and go through and look at what the articles of incorporation are for that state. And I've gone through this in my own, other life. what the articles of incorporation are to be a corporation in a given state. They are X. They call them. There's three things, and if one of those three things is limiting you from your political involvement, and that I'm being very broad in the words I'm using, then that's a state's. The state has a jurisdiction to say that you breached it. So this is the sort of the after. You breached that. So as a corporation, you're not functioning based on what the articles are that you agreed to. So that's one way. And then the other one is new corporations or companies that are businesses that are going to become incorporated. If those rules are set up a certain way, or you make a commitment or a promise that you will not function in a certain way as a corporation in this state. So you see what I'm throwing out.
Yeah.
So help us tie that together as it relates to how states can take back that power.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. It's this case that dates from 1819. It's one of the big first corporate law cases where the state wanted to take away Dartmouth College's property, basically like redo the charter, take away all of its stuff. And the court said, well, the law that created Dartmouth doesn't say that you can do that, so you can't. And one of the justices writing in that said, man, it would be a great idea if the states just put something in their laws that said, we can change this stuff up at any time. And they all did. And so ever since that point, ever since the states added that, it doesn't matter if you're a new corporation or existing corporation, every corporation that exists is on notice that the state could change up their powers at any time. It's actually the charters that you're talking about, it's baked into those charters that the law behind them could change at any moment. And nobody talks about it because it hasn't happened in 100 years. But the strength of those laws hasn't changed at all.
So it really, if I'm understanding this correctly, it doesn't have to be a pre or a post thing in terms of what you signed up for. It's the fact that the underlying guide or underlying writing gives the state the ability to come in and say, by notice, we're changing this. Am I hearing you correctly? Or
absolutely.
In part?
In basic, the court has said everybody's on notice that it's baked into their charters that this could happen at any time. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense, right? Like when they added all these in the 1800s, legislators, people were terrified of corporate power. Corporations were kind of new things, but they were built to accumulate a bunch of money, accumulate a bunch of power, and they were worried about them accumulating too much money and too much power. And so they wrote all these things in there, and it's kind of like, look, we're going to create these things, we're going to send them out, and if it turns out it's Frankenstein's monster tearing up the village, you can haul them back and recondition them and send them back out. That's what these laws do. And the Supreme Court has said consistently that the states can do that.
So, Tom, I got to ask you this question because we know right now the Supreme Court, or 6 of the Supreme Court justices, have leaned in a direction that is in agreement with Citizens United being okay. We're going to talk about that in a second, but
sure.
I do want to ask you this question. Do you think, or how do you think that the Supreme Court would react? Because we have a case, we have a state right now, Hawaii, that's essentially, enacting or enforcing their power as a state to say, hold on a second, you all can't do this. So do you think that that this will make itself, this conversation, this litigation, to the Supreme Court, because those in opposition of what Hawaii is doing and other states may do, may then say we have standing to fight this, take it to the state Supreme Court, up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the 6 justices that have leaned in this direction would say, nope, the states don't have the right to do that. Okay, so there, I've laid it out.
So, yeah, exactly. So Hawaii's governor signed it into law in Hawaii last month, and it's going to go into effect in July 2027, so a year from now. And there has been a federal suit filed in Hawaii District Court, and I do expect that to go to the Supreme Court. But the complaint that's been filed just assumes that this is a regular campaign finance restriction, and this is not regulation. And all the cases, Citizens United, Bellotti, all these other cases before dealt with when the state was regulating and saying, no, you can't do that. Hey, you've got the power to do it, but we're going to restrict your right to do it. And none of these cases ever have dealt with the state's authority to give out these powers. And they've all been on the right side of the ledger, kind of. And so getting rid of this, flipping this, is not just a matter of saying like, oh, no, that regulation, you can't enforce that regulation anymore. We'll pretend like it never existed. If you go to the state's power grant and say, oh, this power grant that you gave to your corporations is not good enough, they can't write in another power. And if they just say it's no good, then they have no powers because you've gotten rid of the grant of power.
Right.
So there's a lot of assumptions this is going to be, they're just going to flick this away. The way they flicked away plenty of good laws for the last 20 years, but they won't. And the damage that they would have to do to fundamental corporation law in this country would be so severe that they're not going to want to do it. The way I think about it is, this theory is like a spider to them. And I'm never going to convince them that they're going to enjoy eating the spider. But I will convince them to eat the spider because the alternative is drinking a glass of battery acid.
Oh.
That would, do horrible damage to all the things that they care about.
Yep.
They're not going to do it because they're good judges. They're not going to do it because they're being fair about it or reading the law or anything else. They're going to do it because they fear the consequences more. And so I think there's a very good chance that this prevails at the Supreme Court.
Got it. Let's take a quick break, Tom. I want to talk about what you guys are doing when it comes to Citizens United when we come back. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends, as always, at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I am talking with Tom Moore, who is a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, and we'll be right back.
WCPT 820 listeners, it's time for some girls news. In 2026, women's entrepreneurship is surging. Driven by a desire for flexibility and accelerated by AI and digital tools, women are increasingly leading in e-commerce, wellness, and service-based sectors, with a major trend towards solo, high-impact, and home-based businesses designed for a work-life balance. Women entrepreneurs are heavily utilizing AI and e-commerce tools to streamline operations and reduce cost. 68% of women entrepreneurs have cited a work-life balance as a primary motivator to becoming a business owner, driving the demand for virtual assistants, digital marketing, consulting, and online coaches. Now, despite the growth, there is a push for better banking support and policy with a focus on addressing the $3 trillion opportunity for women and minority-owned business acquisitions. WCPT 820 listeners, I'm Whitney Rydell, and this has been your Girls News.
When you get a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, things get real.
And nobody understands that better than the Parkinson's Foundation. All across the country, we provide resources and support in the fight against Parkinson's, a neurological disease that affects movement.
The Parkinson's Foundation is dedicated to improving care and advancing research towards a cure.
And when you call our helpline, you'll speak to a real person who can help you find the right information. Because while living with Parkinson's can be challenging, there are things you can do to improve your quality of life. So, whether you're newly diagnosed, have been living with Parkinson's for years, or caring for a loved one,
when Parkinson's gets real, find real answers at the Parkinson's Foundation.
Go to parkinson.org or call our helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO, 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
No fake news here. It's Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being with us this morning. We are talking with Tom Moore, who is a senior fellow for democracy and government. I'm sorry. I knew this cough was coming. Excuse me. For democracy and government at the Center for American Progress. So, Tom, the thing that's really interesting about, excuse me, guys, the forces, if you will, of Citizens United is how the money in politics has just exploded. And I think that sometimes we hear it, that it's exploded, but the numbers sometimes tell a more revealing story. In 2008, $574 million was roughly the amount that was spent in federal elections. By 2012, it doubled to more than $1.3 billion. And by 2024, spending had gotten as high as $4.5 billion. So that's a 10, is that right? My math right? Is that a tenfold over that period of time from 2008 to 2024? That's a big number, and that's measuring the federal impact, if I'm reading this correctly. But here in Illinois, use this as an example. We had our primaries earlier this year, late winter, in February, March, April window. And there were organizations that were physically outside of the state of Illinois that weighed in heavily, and I've spoken about this a number of times, to our primary elections for Senate and our House of Representative elections, and even some of the state legislative elections. So that's a federal measurement that you guys have put together, but the states have also been impacted by that, and I'm sure you're fully aware of those numbers. So it's a big number. It's a big one to kind of reel back in. Is it realistic to reel it back in, or is it just stopping? I mean, what's the mechanism that would actually work to break this down?
Yeah, so the state that passes this does get all corporate and dark money out of their politics in their local, state, and federal elections. A state that passes this, every dollar in their politics from that point forward is from an individual human being person.
Okay.
It is disclosed and it's voluntary. What it does not take care of, and this is a concern, is it doesn't stop any person from spending in politics. So what that means is it doesn't stop a billionaire from dropping $250 million into a super PAC and having it spent that way. What it does stop them from doing is laundering that money.
As long as it's personal. I mean, let me make sure I understand.
Exactly.
It's got to be his or her personal money that doesn't come from a corporate entity that's contributed to a super PAC. Am I right?
That's correct. Oh. And the super PAC will disclose their name. And
okay.
So, and basically, so when that super PAC starts spending, people can say, oh, Elon Musk is the one who's paying for all of this. There's no, Elon Musk did spend a tremendous amount of money in the 2024 elections that was disclosed to his name. He also spent a ton of money also through LLCs in Texas and all these other groups that were totally non-disclosed, and we don't know how much that was. And there's a kind of a parallel proceeding going on right now. Harvard law professor Larry Lessig got a ballot initiative passed in Maine to do kind of a test case that's going through the First Circuit that would basically stop that. It would stop unlimited amounts of money going into super PACs that could be spent. So if a super PAC wanted to spend $100 million on a race, that's fine, but they'd have to collect it $5,000 at a time, which is very different from what they're doing right now. So these two reforms together really would reel a lot of this back.
Yeah, the full elimination of it may not necessarily happen, or at least immediately. But if the states were to implement and enact this, then it would reel back that darkish or that grayish roadmap of contributions to the PACs, and then those big dollars from one individual. It would force the game to be, you and me can give our $250, but Tom and Richard can't take the corporation that they've created and then circumvent money or redirect money from the corporation to contribute to that PAC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. So Citizens United obviously is something that you guys have been working extremely hard to provide information, doing the research to show where its holes are and how it can be effectively attacked. And it seems as though the states are the mechanism or the entity that can do the most damage to break it down. What are you hearing, if you can share it with us, or if there's even any rumbling of which states might be listening to what you guys are saying in this space, and which ones might be the ones, Tom, that we know about Hawaii, but are there others?
Yeah, we had bills actually in 15 state legislatures this year that we worked on, and it just kind of spread virally among legislators. I'm expecting it to be probably in 30 legislatures next year, including Illinois. Yeah, I don't know if they'll pass. I mean, basically, they, in 14 legislatures, they made it through into the legislative process to a certain extent and then stopped, which new bills frequently do. Hawaii was this great, tremendous, pleasant surprise that it made it all the way through and got signed into law. But the best way to pass a bill this year is to have had it fail last year. Legislators are actually kind of timid people sometimes. They're scared by new ideas. They got to warm up to them for a couple of years. This is true for any kind of bill that you put out there. So one of our goals is to just kind of get this out in as many places as possible. And I think when the day comes, when the Supreme Court decides it doesn't want to drink the glass of battery acid, that's going to be the day that it starts moving in every state. And because this is overwhelmingly popular, something like high 70% of everybody in America does not like dark money, does not like corporate money, does not like Citizens United, doesn't like the system we have, wants a reform like this. And this is true of Republicans, Independents, Democrats. This is actually not an issue that splits on party lines at all, because it helps both parties. If you're getting rid of the dark money, that gets rid of the dark money funded extremists on either side who are preventing reasonable people who would like to actually get deals done in the middle. And so it's something that should appeal to a wide variety of states. I mean, Montana is the other state. They just got the signatures this week to get it on the ballot this fall. And Montana is not a blue state by any measure. They are fiercely independent. They hate corporate political corruption. They've seen plenty of it over the last century and before. And, they're probably going to vote it in, with more than 70% of the vote this fall.
That's fascinating.
So it's headed everywhere. But I think what's going to really kind of put gasoline on that fire is a court ruling that says, for 200 years we were right. States can do this kind of thing.
So when you say a court ruling, do you mean a state Supreme Court or a U.S. Supreme Court ruling?
U.S. Supreme Court will do it.
Okay.
That may take a couple of years, but we're on our way.
So, and the last thing I want to say, I mean, I told Henry during the break, I said, oh my God, this is something we could talk about forever, because it is, how do I want to say this, Tom? I always love the idea when there's something that's over here, you call it a tool, an item in the toolkit that's not being used, and then you discover it and go, oh my God, one, how in the hell did we not recognize we had this? And then secondly, the excitement that comes from the ability to actually use it. And that seems to be where we're potentially headed. Because I think at the end of the day, a lot of the state legislators will want their independence back. And having outside money come into the elections on a state level, it's kind of, killing their vibe as well. So,
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, one of the original code names for this project when I was working on it was Operation Ruby Slippers. As Glenda the Good Witch told Dorothy, you always had the power, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself. And state legislators are learning that they've got this power.
What a great note to end on. Tom, I hope you will come back and we can talk about this some more. It's fascinating, and I really appreciate you taking this and kind of breaking it down and helping the audience better understand it. But I'd love to have you back again so we can talk more about this and some of the other wonderful things that you're doing at CAP, which is also Center for American Progress. Tom Moore, thank you for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.
Always. Have a great rest of the day and a nice weekend. We appreciate you being with us. Bye now.
Take care.
All right. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, as well as our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Ever tried balancing a dozen eggs in one hand while hopping on one foot? Or maybe juggling cats while riding a unicycle? Sounds ridiculous, right? But guess what? That's exactly what texting while driving is like. Your human brain only has the capacity to focus on one thing at a time. So when you're behind the wheel, give driving your undivided attention.
Don't drive distracted.
A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today. We're with Liam after his 4th military move, when being new is starting to get old. We're with Tara during the holidays, when she misses home the most. We're with all service members and their families who need connection, comfort, and a home away from home. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
Happy Pride, Chicago! Join WCPT in celebrating by attending the 55th Annual Chicago Pride Parade. Look for the WCPT float as the parade kicks off at 11 a.m. Sunday, June 28th from Broadway and Sheridan. If you can't attend in person, listen to the WCPT live broadcast with Scott Duff and Ellen Miller, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Sponsored by Berman Kia and Subaru, Social Change, AFSP, Chicago Community Acupuncture, Rep Shy, Pride Coffee Roaster, Illinois Vets for Change, SAG-AFTRA, and the Center on Halstead.
Chicago's Progressive Talk WCPT Willow Springs is powered by ComEd. Find rebates and discounts on energy-efficient products at ComEd.com/home savings.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today. We'll see high into the mid-70s. Northwest winds around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, mostly clear skies develop, a low near 57. By Friday, we'll see sunshine, a high of 77 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 79. Sunday, chance for showers and storms, high of 74. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 64.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Choose Views. And, of course, our number is 773-763-9278. Earlier in the show, Ryan Nunn was with us and from Yale University, and we just had Tom Moore from the Centers for American Progress on talking about how the states take back power with regard to corporate PAC money. And with us at this point in the show is, as I said and promised earlier, Nate Weisberg, who would be taking some time to talk to us a little bit about artificial intelligence and its impact from his vantage point on our economy, but also on workers. And Nate's really been writing some great stuff as of late. Good morning, Nate, and welcome to Choose Views.
Morning. How are you, Richard?
I'm doing well, thanks. I having a little bit of morning allergies going on this morning, but other than that, I'm hanging in there. It's good to meet you. You have been writing some phenomenal work across the board, but particularly in Washington Monthly. And I'll just dive right in terms of, one recent article that you wrote, how AI broke the entry-level job. Earlier in the show, I was talking about, it was one of my news items about how agents at State Farm are even concerned right now about how their contracts with the corporate contracts that an independent agent has at State Farm is being changed, and it could affect their income by up to 40% because of AI's impact on processing not only new applications but ongoing applications in the world of property and casualty insurance. And I know you know who State Farm is, but you spoke to this as it relates to entry-level jobs that are paid by an employer. And the data says that white-collar jobs are booming, but the class of 2026 is seeing the opposite. Both are right. Help us understand what that text means.
Absolutely. So we've heard a lot about, AI replacing workers and this looming threat. And it's been sort of hard to gauge how much of that is hype and how much of that is real. And what we're really seeing in the economy overall, we just had a strong jobs report, is that even in the fields where people have thought that AI would be the biggest threat of replacement to certain fields, those fields have been growing. White collar work has been growing. Even wages are up for white collar workers. Paralegals, software developers, radiologists, these fields where we thought they would be in trouble, we just haven't seen it yet. But where we actually have started to see it is among entry-level jobs and people who are just entering the job market out of college. And it's been an ongoing trend that we're seeing. It's taking longer for them to get settled into jobs. And AI is definitely making this problem worse because, and we have data to back this up, to see that firms are automating the lowest rungs of the work they do. So, the easiest stuff that, used to train an entry-level worker, the drafting, the proofing, that's the stuff that's really getting taken over by AI. And that's leaving. And it doesn't mean that firms aren't expanding hiring or even hiring more entry-level workers. It just means that they're asking for more experience for entry-level roles, because what's left for an entry-level worker to do is more advanced work. And this is a real serious problem, both for graduates but also employers and universities. Graduates, there's plenty of research on early career labor market shocks that shows that if you fall behind at the start of your career, it can depress your earnings and career progress for years and years to come. And for schools, it presents a big problem if they're graduating students who are having such a hard time finding jobs, that brings into question the whole bargain of college in the first place. And then employers are going to find that they might be able to, save money automating some junior work now, but then in a certain amount of time, they'll realize that they failed to train the next generation of workers they need to fill senior roles. There's the downward mobility among people who go to college is potentially very politically explosive as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a labor reporter from the New York Times who has a new book out called Mutiny, which is about it's about the college-educated working class and people who, we know on average that the college wage premium is basically as high as it's ever been, but that's not true in every case. And for cases where it's not true, it can be very politically radicalizing, and it can have, effects on our political system overall.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about that, because Nate, one of the things that popped in my mind when you said that is if we go back to 2024's general election, and then we go through the last 18 plus months as it relates to special elections, primaries, and even state elections, one of the conversations is that the Democrats didn't listen to the everyday working person, lost that part of the voter block. The Republicans did. They got the right message to the everyday working class, didn't talk about kitchen table issues, meaning Democrats, talked too much about culture wars, and the Republicans got it right. Well, if that were true, it seems as though, and again, this is where I love what you just said, that if that were true, Democrats have paid attention politically, and they've moved their message, if you will, to that everyday working class, kitchen table a storyline. But if that's true, and let's say that it has happened, and I believe that there's evidence to show that it has, then how do we sort of tie into this? Not every middle class, everyday working man or woman is steeped in a concern about AI. They're just concerned about employment at large. Am I making sense? You see where I'm going with this? What are you seeing in that space, and how as a young cat are you looking at this and trying to address it for everybody?
Well, I see two things going on. I definitely agree with your assessment that Democrats have done a better job of emphasizing kitchen table issues writ large. But, we've got now a socialist mayor in New York, and his constituency is not the most working class parts of New York, it's actually college graduates and recent college graduates. And we just had a mayoral primary in DC, and you could see something similar with a socialist mayor here, and then potentially in LA as well. And that's sort of what I'm getting at with, Democrats are still the party of the educated, and as of right now, Republicans are still mainly the party of the non-college educated. But what you're seeing is people who are college educated, working at Starbucks and working at Apple and joining unions, and they seem to be really fueling this political reaction that's sending a new type of candidate into office that we haven't seen in a long time. If that answers your question, I hope.
Yeah, no. It's just fascinating because I'm looking at this from my ears and what I'm hearing, but also from the lens of someone like you, who chronologically fits the demographic that this message sort of speaks to, in terms of entry level, younger in their younger in their career, and all that. So to be less preachy, and more observant and query driven about what you're seeing, how the political impacts are real in this space. So three other things popped into my mind. A lot of things popping into my mind, Nate. So you gotta bear with me on this one. What sectors are you seeing that this sort of how AI broke the entry-level job? What sectors of employment are you seeing it having the most impact, or landing the most, if you've looked into that?
So I think the knowledge about this is true. It is changing roles for development, paralegals. It is changing white collar jobs like that, but we're just not seeing, we're not seeing less hiring overall. Hiring is still increasing. They're just not hiring people without experience. And, we could see in a few years, it might be different. It might be that AI is actually, companies have figured out how to utilize it in a way that they really are able to cut back on workers. But that, even in the most AI exposed fields, that's not what is happening yet. And another thing about the recent graduates is that, and this problem just AI just makes worse, is that, the experience of applying to jobs is becoming more and more like Tinder and swiping a million times, because now every student, basically, cover letters used to be a way to distinguish yourself. You write a good cover letter, and now employers are finding that all the cover letters read the same because they're all written by AI. I mean, it probably does a pretty good job, but they all read the same, and now they can't use cover letters to distinguish people. And at the same time, there's things like grade inflation, which is a worse problem, I think, at elite schools than non-elite schools. But it's just another thing where the feedback signals of your qualifications are breaking down. So employers are having to look elsewhere, and where they increasingly are looking is towards your work experience, as opposed to, your transcript or your extracurriculars in college or anything like that.
Yeah, one of the things that I was talking to a younger person about this a few months ago, when it first started to be talked about the fact that cover letters were losing their luster and almost not even needed, or in some cases weren't even required, and almost to the detriment of someone that uses one, because the person that's looking at that resume and cover letter is not able to, as you said, distinguish from what was written by the individual versus what was written by an AI model. And what she said to me is that it's creeping into more and more of the process, the new entry-level job process, because so many people have been indoctrinated into using it for other things that they now overlay that into their employment process. And what she was saying that could start to happen, though, is some people might be able to figure out how to write a counter program that sort of takes it back. And I see you smiling, so take the baton on that, because you know where I'm going with this one.
I actually haven't heard about the counter program, but I'm not surprised that people are figuring out stuff like that. Not least because we know employers are using this too to sort through. So employers are using AI to sort through AI written cover letters.
Right.
And it's like trying to win the lottery, trying to get a job, and people are applying to more jobs than ever now because of this. And I'm not surprised that someone's trying to, utilize AI to figure out how to make it ping on the algorithm that the employer is using so that they can have a shot.
That's crazy. That's just using. Someone said to me, I had a guest on the show 2 weeks ago that said, use technology to learn technology. And I didn't interpret that. I just heard the words as they were. But from an employment standpoint, that is something that this individual did say to me in private about how there are people who are now looking at how to use the program, to psych out the program, what the employers are using to determine what it is you use to get to that point of the job application process. So it's a fascinating conversation. We're going to take a small break. Nate, I want to be able to, when we come back, chat a little bit about how what you see when it comes to the entrepreneurial part of work right now, and how organizations might be using AI to build their entrepreneurial platform, and see what your thoughts are there. But let's take a little bit of a break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about that. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, as well as our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with Nate Weisberg, and we'll be right back.
This is WCPT telling you that you can shop blue. With the Trump administration making over $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and the ACA, let's take a look at some health insurance companies that support the Democratic Party. CVS Health. CVS Health donated $938,000 to local action committees, sitting in the middle at a 50-50 split on parties they donate to. But with donations from senior leaders and other employees, 64% of their donations went to Democrats. Walgreens donated $316,000 to local action committees in 2024. But it's also a 50-50 split with their political donations. But with their senior leaders and other employees, 70% of Walgreens donations went to Democrats. Blue Cross Blue Shield. In 2024, Blue Cross Blue Shield donated $5 million in political gifts. It was a 50-50 split between both parties, but with senior leaders and other employees' donations, 64% of those donations went to Democrats. This has been WCPT telling you that you can shop blue.
Feel the rush of summer in your new Porsche. Find the perfect model for you at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Browse and test drive our extensive selection, like the 2026 Porsche Cayenne. Right now, lease the 2026 Cayenne for just $11.99 a month for 39 months. Discover performance like no other when you visit the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $10,990 signing for qualified buyers. Excludes tax, title, license, and dealer fee. No security deposit required. See dealer for details. Offer ends 6/30/26.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds. Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Debunking the lies your uncle saw on Facebook. It's Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. If you are just tuning in, Choose Views on WCPT, and I'm Richard Chu. So, talking with Nate Weisberg of Washington Monthly, and two questions I want to ask you in this last little bit, Nate. The one is maybe an area that you have a little bit of understanding, or at least conversation with people about, as and if entry-level jobs are being strained as a result of a variety of factors. One that you've talked about is, and that's the impact of AI. What are you seeing, or are you seeing anything in the space of how that's maybe pushing people to more entrepreneurial endeavors? Are you seeing any trending there that you've been able to report on or research on?
Absolutely, and I've got a good story about someone. And first, it's important to say that, as I've said, that the employers are leaning more into work experience is something they're looking for, and we know for undergraduates, the amount of work experience you have is typically correlated with the amount of connections you have, and Oh, I've got an example of a student who was at went to a regional public university. He's a gymnast and he studied consumer economics, not computer science. This is not someone who does coding.
Right.
And basically, after he graduated, he had to figure out what to do next. And instead of just applying to hundreds and hundreds of jobs, hoping that something worked, he started building something with AI. And he, first he tried a bunch of random ideas, like business products, fitness, coffee protein bars. He even did a coffee brand called Anti-Sleep. And eventually he realized software was cheaper and faster to test than physical products. And since he had this background as a gymnast, he leaned into that and built a fitness app that's now on the App Store. And the app is about like workout scoring and food scoring. And at the same time, he's trying to figure out his career and thought sales would be useful. So he utilized AI and set up calls with over 100 salespeople, and which made him visible to people. And then one of those connections later reached out to him about an AI program and a new company that's working on cyber threat intelligence platforms for cybersecurity teams. And he's joined, and that's now what he's doing, working on cybersecurity, all through his, personal exploration, messing with AI and trying to figure out what to do. And nobody gave this kid an internship or anything to lift him up. He just did it by himself. And, we hear a lot of horror stories about AI, but there's also, in some ways, we can see it level the playing field and open up opportunities for people that didn't have it before. And coding is one big one where it really seems to empower the average person to experiment with coding with really no experience coding.
Yeah. Well, and that's been the thing that I've tried to do is, as much as, we recognize the impact of AI where, there's legitimate data across multiple sectors that it's impacting employment, and there's that conversation's there, and we're going to have it again in versions of it repeatedly. Me being of the entrepreneurial mindset, just wanted to know what you have seen and experienced, and that's a great story. And I'm sure that there are going to be more like that because of people's ability to kind of be creative and come up with self-sustaining ways to do the thing that they enjoy or find the thing that they enjoy. And AI may be, one of the catalysts to help them go down that path.
And no one's experimenting with this technology as much as young people, and they'll be best positioned to get really good at it.
Yeah.
And it's it's going to be up to people. Yeah.
What I'm seeing too, though, is some of the boomers that are older boomers that have time, because a lot of it is a time-driven conversation as well. So there's a lot of people who have gotten to their point where they're retiring from their 30 or 40-year career, doing whatever, whether they were an attorney or whether they were, in everything that you can imagine. But they've decided to retire. They, may have been in the financial world. They may have been in education. The list goes on. And I have a couple people that have been guests on my show that are retired teachers, and they understood teaching, how technology impacted their ability to teach. But they're also looking at it now that they've shifted time and shifted career and they have more time. They're some of the biggest experimenters or curiosity folk when it comes to AI, because they have the time to actually spend to learn it or become comfortable with it. What are you hearing or seeing there? I mean, that's a practical kind of on the ground thing that I've observed because of my chronological age. What are you seeing in that space?
I've seen it really vary, adult to adult, boomer to boomer, on how much they're using this technology. But I have been talking to this guy who was the president of Southern New Hampshire University, and he, pioneered this mass access model of higher education, and which is, the Southern New Hampshire University has 20,000 some students more,
right?
I mean, a lot of online learning, and now what he's telling me, and he's using it all the time. He's used it to help him write a book that's coming out about AI in the university, and he's had it, create podcast episodes for his book. All these summaries when he wants to send people information about his book. AI is basically doing all of that. But what his sort of argument is that AI is going to cause, at least within higher education, sort of a shift back towards the liberal arts. And part of the problem with that is the name liberal arts is so polarizing at this point. People have so many different ideas that come with that.
Yeah.
But when you look at when these employers are asking for more senior credentials than they were before for these entry-level jobs. What those skills they're asking for are like, they sound like a brochure for a liberal arts school. It's like creativity, communication, leadership, face-to-face interaction. It's the stuff that liberal arts schools are usually prioritizing.
Right.
And when people hear liberal arts, they think it automatically means you're doing a degree in, I don't know, and not, you can
basket
study
weaving or
economics at
something.
liberal
Right,
arts
right,
school.
right.
Exactly. But I think, that's going to be a thing to look out for, whether, we see schools sort of shift more from a sort of vocational bent to more of a liberal arts bent.
One of the things
that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and Nate, there's so much more to talk to you about. So look in your calendar and be ready for us to hit you up to talk some more. But one of the things that you said as we wrap up that I thought is really a great quote: unless all colleges start reliably giving students real work experience before they finish, many graduates will find that getting their first job now requires proof that they already have had one. And I think that that's one of the more on-point statements made. And because I wrapped that in the conversation around training and further development. So, Nate, it's been great hanging with you this morning. Thanks for taking some time. And I really appreciate your fresh approach to this and using your knowledge and your experience to kind of help solve a problem or concern that we have right now. Real quick, how can folks find you before we let you go?
You can find me. I'm on Twitter at Weisberg_Nate. That's mainly the only social platform I'm on. Otherwise, check out the WashingtonMonthly.com, just WashingtonMonthly.com. And yeah, thanks for having me, and good luck to all the recent college graduates. Hang in there.
Right on, man.
It'll be all right.
It'll be all right. Nate, thanks for being with us, man. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Bye. Thank you, Richard.
All right. Bye-bye. Guys, wow, what fascinating guest today. It was so cool to talk with Nate. What a sharp guy, and really plugged in, Henry, to how this is so critically important. And thanks to Tom Moore for spending some time with us, and of course, Ryan Nunn as well. I hope we brought you guys some new approaches and thinking to not only AI, but policy as it relates to where our state governments are right now when it comes to pushing back on Citizens United and being able to solve that problem. So thanks for hanging with us this morning, everybody. We're going to wrap it up today. The Stephanie Miller Show is what's next up here on WCPT. And as always, remember to take a deep breath and make your life count. We will see you tomorrow.
I never considered myself to be a heavy drinker. At first, I only drank with friends, then to get through the day. I hit rock bottom when I realized I was choosing alcohol over my family. That's when I made the call. With my doctor's help, I was diagnosed with alcohol use disorder. Now, I'm getting to the root of my addiction and finding better ways to cope.
Mental health care works when you make the call. Visit mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
1 in 10 people age 50 and older in the U.S. have early age-related macular degeneration.
Because macular degeneration often has no early symptoms, many don't know they have it until irreversible vision loss has already occurred.
Don't miss life's most beautiful moments.
Schedule a comprehensive eye exam to protect your sight.
Macular Degeneration Research, a Bright Focus Foundation program, offers free resources and tips for healthy vision.
Go to stopamd.org to learn more.
Amazon Business. With smart business buying, innovative AI tools optimize your purchasing experience, paired with delivery options built for business. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. An initial agreement to end the war between the U.S. and Iran calls for Tehran to dilute its stockpile of highly enriched uranium and would waive sanctions on the country, immediately allowing Iran to sell its oil freely. The agreement would also open the Strait of Hormuz toll-free for 2 months. Both the U.S. and Iranian presidents have signed the deal. The White House had planned a signing ceremony tomorrow in Switzerland, but its fate is now uncertain, with conflicting information from the U.S., Iran, and Pakistan. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has announced a 6-month Pentagon review of American forces in Europe. Speaking to reporters in Brussels, Hegseth said his team will have honest conversations with the nations that he believes need to make more changes within the alliance.
Many countries following through, some that still need to do more, and we will be candid about that, both in private and in public. I think that's important. Friends, being honest with friends.
Hegseth also criticized European allies for failing to provide U.S. forces access to bases in Europe to launch attacks on Iran, calling it shameful. Gilgo Beach, New York serial killer Rex Heuermann has been sentenced to life in prison without parole. Heuermann is an architect who admitted in court to killing 8 women, many of them sex workers. The United Healthcare CEO shooting suspect plans to assert a psychiatric defense at a state murder trial. The judge said Luigi Mangioni's lawyers will try to show that he was suffering from extreme emotional disturbance. U.S. gas prices fell below $4 a gallon on average, according to Motor Club AAA. It's the first time since March that the average cost for a regular gallon has been that low. Prices fell overnight after President Trump signed the agreement with Iran to end the war. More stories at apnews.com. This is AP News.
AP Sports, I'm Gethin Coolbaugh. Harry Kane scored twice to equal the English record for World Cup goals with 10. Jude Bellingham added another 2 minutes into the second half, and England beat Croatia 4-2 in the opener for both teams. England head coach Thomas Tuchel.
We played against a top opponent. I think we showed a bit of nerves. Maybe we wanted to overdo it.
Cristiano Ronaldo and Portugal were held to a 1-1 draw by Congo. Austria earned its first World Cup win in 36 years, 3-1 over Jordan. Ghana beat Panama 1-0, and Colombia topped Uzbekistan 3-1. MLB 3-time Cy Young winner Max Scherzer of the Blue Jays landed back on the 10-day injured list with back spasms. The WNBA is expanding its schedule to 50 games next season, and the Vancouver Golden Eyes selected U.S. Olympian Caroline Harvey with the first pick in the PWHL draft. Gethin Coolbaugh.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today. We'll see high into the mid-70s. Northwest winds around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, mostly clear skies develop, a low near 57. By Friday, we'll see sunshine, a high of 77 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, a high of 79. Sunday, chance for showers and storms, high of 74. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 63. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT Willow Springs, is powered by ComEd. Visit ComEd.com/facility assessment to learn more about energy savings.
Hi, this is Tom Hartman. When retirees are asked about their biggest financial fears, the top concerns are running out of money and reducing their retirement lifestyle. What many seniors don't realize is that overpaying taxes can make those fears a reality. Most retirees focus on investment returns, but the hidden secret may be keeping more of what they earn after taxes. Brookfield Tax Planning can show you strategies many CPAs and financial advisors don't discuss, including reducing taxes on required minimum distributions, growing money safely with tax-advantaged income, and legally sheltering thousands through proactive 2026 tax planning. Remember, every dollar wasted on unnecessary taxes is a dollar you don't get to live on. 2026 tax planning needs to start right now. Don't wait until next tax season hoping your taxes will somehow be lower. Visit BrookfieldTaxPlanning.com or call 708-485-3439. That's Brookfield Tax Planning or call 708-485-3439.
Too often, political news focuses on what's happening in Washington, D.C. But from redistricting to reproductive rights, what matters most to your life happens at the state level. And when no one's closely watching the state, bad stuff happens. That's why Heartland Signal offers Radio Free America, a free weekly newsletter from me, Aaron Kleinman. Sign up at heartlandsignal.com/newsletter. I spent 7 years helping the most successful state-level political group navigate elections across the country. Now I want to help you